Hi guys! So for my strategy, I chose chapter 15, which is leveled questions. Leveled questions, which are also known as differentiated questioning, are when the teacher adjusts question strategies to fit the language levels of their students. Leveled questions should be done when a teacher needs to adapt the way that they ask a question so that their students who are at a different language acquisition stage can respond to them accordingly. To level questions, a teacher should know their student and their English proficiency, and then once the teacher knows the level at which the student interacts in English, the teacher will then be able to adjust the question to make sure that the student can successfully answer it. So the teacher can use anything from gestures, hand signals, visuals, and even slow down their speech slightly to help ask the questions. The teacher should also make sure that they ask questions that is in a way that encourages their students to respond and to make them comfortable. You should know that depending on the student's language level, they're going to answer how they do feel comfortable, which could be pointing to a visual, giving a one-word answer, giving a full sentence or two, or even a full explanation. And any of those will be acceptable for this strategy. So to model my strategy, I chose the book, The Very Grouchy Ladybug by Eric Carle. And with this, what I would do first would be to observe my students and their language levels. My next step would be to choose and gather materials, which would be this book. And lastly, I would plan a hierarchy of questions that would depend on the student and their level. So if I were doing this book as an activity, I would have a pre-production student. A question or cue that I would give them would be to ask them, show me, or which of these. So in this situation, I could find a page where there are two distinct characters. So I could tell my student, show me the grouchy ladybug, or which of these is the grouchy ladybug. I could get a point or a gesture. As long as the student acknowledges, that would be an appropriate response. If the student was at an early production level, a question or cue I would give would be, is this the blank or the blank? So in this instance, I could say, is this the, I could point to this one and say, is this the grouchy ladybug or the happy ladybug? And a student at this level would give a one-word response or a two-word response that could say, this is the happy ladybug, or even if it was just happy. A student who is at the speech emergent level, a good question or cue that I would do in this strategy would be, did this happen at the beginning or the end, or what happened next, or where did you find your answer? So an example for a question here would be, when did the grouchy ladybug meet the whale? Or did the grouchy ladybug meet the whale at the beginning or the end of the story? Or what happened after the grouchy ladybug met the whale? And an appropriate response for a student at this speech emergent level would be a phrase or a short sentence in which the teacher should expect some grammatical errors. So in this instance, they could say the ladybug met the whale at the end of the story. Or if I said, what part of the story, they could say the end of the story. Or what happened next, they could tell me the whale hit the ladybug with their tail, or anything that would go with that. And then lastly, for immediate fluency, a good question or cue would be, how did you, or what was the character trying to do? So this would be something that I could say, how did you feel at the end of the story? Or how did you think the ladybug felt? Or anything along those lines that now a student who is at this level can give me longer sentences with fewer grammar errors. So personally, I like this strategy, and I think it is something that can be used with even outside of ELL's students. It could also be with ESE students. The fact that you can now see your students, see their needs, see what level that they are on, and really adapt so that you can get the most from them. So I think it's a strategy that I would feel comfortable making for a student. Once I get to know them, to know that this is what I can ask them, to make sure that they can understand and give me an answer so that then I can assess them. But then I feel this is also something that'll help those students that want to give an answer but don't really know how. So, knowing that they can find a way to do it, whether it is the pointing or with the gestures or with simple answers. I think this is a strategy that I would definitely adapt and use into my classroom. So thank you guys.